Everyone, and welcome to the Ferndale City Council meeting for Monday, October 27, 2014. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Sherilyn, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Lennon.
Present.
Martin.
Here.
Polika.
Here.
Piana.
Here.
Mayor Coulter.
Here. Thank you. Next item of business would be the approval of the agenda.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented. Support.
I would like to make a correction, actually, or an addition.
Okay.
I see our county commissioner is here, Helene Zach. I'd like to add her to the presentation section.
All right, we'll make her B. Any other discussion? Sherilyn, would you call the roll?
Council members Lennon.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes.
Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. The agenda is adopted. Moving on now, the next item of business is presentations, now plural, and the first one is a resolution of appreciation to retiring auxiliary officer Kevin Ludke. And Chief Collins, are you going to introduce that, or am I? Okay. Why don't I read this while you come up, and then you can say a few words as well. The City of Ferndale would like to proclaim and honor auxiliary member Kevin Ludke on the occasion of his retirement from the Ferndale Auxiliary Police. At a regular meeting of City Council held this day, Mayor Dave Coulter, on behalf of the Ferndale City Council, extends the city's congratulations to Kevin Ludke on the occasion of his retirement. Kevin has been a credit to this community, and it is with heartfelt appreciation that we celebrate his achievement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Kevin's not here tonight. He'll be honored officially at Saturday's dinner.
Yep.
And but for those at home that won't be attending the dinner, we'd just like to tell you a little bit about Kevin. Kevin's been with us for 21 years. He's a Ferndale resident, and he has been an integral part of the auxiliary program. He's been a squad leader. He's a former auxiliary of the year, and he is looking forward very much to his, not only his retirement, but to his to the party that will be this Saturday at the Royal Oak Elks, and we hope that all you folks at the council table can attend. Thanks.
I'll be there and bring that in person. Thank you, Chief. Our second presentation is our County Commissioner, Helene Zach, who stops in to update us on the happenings of Oakland County. Commissioner, good evening.
Thank you. Couple of different things. I want to invite people to an event on November 18th, 8:30 to 11:30. It's Build Transit, Build Business. It is a collaborative effort sponsored by the Metropolitan Coalition of Congregations. And what this event is about is to talk about regional transit and to educate the public more about it. We do have a regional transit authority happening. We do have a new lead of that, Michael Ford, and people need to know more about what's happening. This is the community conversation. So if you're interested, it's at Ford Field, and you can go to www.mcmichigan.org to register. One of the things that I did last week as county commissioner is to approve the equalization report. And I know that our Mayor Coulter understands that, but this is the tabulation of the county, is in charge of all of the assessments throughout the county, and they put together this report that shows all of the different millages. And so I was looking at it very closely and saw many of the communities that I represent have higher millages than they used to. And I talked to the person in charge of this and said, wow, what's going on? And they did an analysis for me on the millage rates, comparing mills to the revenue collected. And so I want people to understand, and I know that we talk about this, is that yes, we do have more mills, but we are paying less taxes on our homes, and the city of Ferndale is getting less money than they used to, except 2014 we're on an upswing. So I just want to give you, and I have a chart. For example, in 2007, Ferndale residents had about 23 mills assessed, and in 2014, they had 30 mills, and it went down from 2013. But when you look at the residential value overall in Ferndale, in 2007, the value was $636 million something, compared in 2014, $390 million. And frankly, 2014 went up from 2013. So, you know, and this is what we're all struggling with. I know that our city manager knows that, but when you see this in comparison, and when you look at the amount of tax coming in, it is greatly, you know, reduced from 2007. So it was, and it's not just Ferndale. I did a couple of my communities in comparison. I didn't want to just look at one. And people need to understand that when we ask for a millage renewal or something, we are paying less money, even though we think that we're getting taxed more based on mills. You know, and I needed to see that.
Thank you.
Once again, I do want to talk about FEMA. We have them at the Kulik Center. We're beyond what I call the honeymoon period. People are getting denials. I do, and I'm hearing from people about that, and I have this lovely, you know, I know all of us have met with the government relations people. You can appeal. Read your denial letter closely. It could have been a technical thing, and reapply. If you didn't like your inspector's results, you can ask for another inspector. So you don't have to just accept that. And I'm happy to help facilitate that too. You know, I'm doing that with several people. I'm hearing from them just to question it once they've gone to the Kulik Center or tried to talk to it. You know, let's see what we can do. But people need to understand basic necessities are what's being funded. A recreational basement, carpet, drywall, you know, it's a loss, but it's not living emergency, you know, and putting it in perspective. One of the things that we were able to do as part of the Oakland County budget, finally, was to address bullying of children. And this is an issue that I think since you started as county commissioner is how do we do that? But the good news is that there's actually an evidence-based program that is part of curriculum for the Michigan Model for Health. And so Oakland County is going to be partnering with Oakland schools, investing money to train the trainers in this bullying curriculum so it can be offered throughout Oakland County, and that we can finally address it in a good way. And I like the fact that it's part of health curriculum, because we're dealing with lots of social issues. So that, you know, it's bully-free schools, circle of support learning. Finally, there is a Michigan job fair that came across my desk, and it is Thursday, October 30th. It is at the Holiday Inn Hotel in Livonia on Laurel Park Drive. It is offered by www.jobfairgiant.com. And there's all sorts of workshops for jobs, as well as lots of people coming to hire. So whenever I see anything with jobs, I do want to circulate that when it comes across. And that's it.
Excellent. Any questions of Commissioner? Well, thank you, as always, for stopping by. And,
I do have one more, if you don't mind. The Detroit Institute of Arts. Does anybody really want to hear about that? Okay, just quickly. We did approve an arts authority that does collect public money. And unfortunately, there was a story a couple weeks ago how our leaders got some high pay raises, frankly, that they were done before the millage was approved and voted on. But we did have the chair of the board for the DIA and our Arts Authority person came to meet with the commissioners last week, and it was a great learning opportunity. We need more transparency. We need more accountability. We are asking them to remedy this issue for us, and so there's been discussion, and we're waiting to hear that, hear what they do with it. So we are aware, and I've heard from many people about that, and I share your concerns. This is our public institution. Detroit's just getting out of bankruptcy, so, you know, let's learn from this opportunity. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, our next item of business is a public hearing on the 2014 Sidewalk Assessment District. Lloyd, do you want to introduce that before I open it up to the public?
Tonight before council, we have the confirmation of the Special Assessment District for the 2014 Sidewalk District, Improvement District. The area done this year was from University to East Camborne and from Woodward to Hilton. The total cost on the SAD is a little over $86,000 as shown in the memo. And the only significant thing that I would like to point out is that it's the first year that we've brought this back into the program. Because we're now doing this in-house with DPW staff, the actual cost savings to the residents directly is $26,000. So when we get to the city's portion, the ADA portion, we're also going to find a similar amount of savings. So by doing this in-house in this single program, we're saving at least $50,000 in costs.
Excellent. So now I want to open it up to the public. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address council on the 2014 Sidewalk Assessment District program? All right. Seeing none, I will close the public comment. I will mention, I believe there was a sidewalk hardship committee meeting prior to this council meeting if anybody wanted to come and file a hardship claim. Nope, nobody showed for that, Lloyd? Okay. All right. What is council's pleasure?
I move that we confirm the assessment roll for Special Assessment Sidewalk District 2014 and to spread the special assessments on the 2014 winter tax roll unless granted deferment by the Hardship Committee.
Support.
Moved by Martin and supported by Polika. Any discussion?
I don't have a discussion, but just the point I bring up every time, and I'm really sorry to keep doing it, but I don't ever get the understanding that we've fully engaged this, that as we go through and roll through the city, and I know it's a kind of this roving, rolling process, that we are keeping track of defects that we find either in quality of work or what we've learned about how these things are laid off. So we have some institutional history, especially as we've had it out external and now we've got it internal. It seems like it provides an even better opportunity. And I think those are the kind of data that we can collect that leads to, I think, good decisions, like when we stopped assessing for trees that were city-owned, for example. You know, as we see those trends, I'm really interested at some point in seeing what that looks like over time and reviewing our policies around that data. So, thank you.
I guess I would mention that it's not too early to start thinking about the 2015 district because those folks are likely to see some markings possibly on their sidewalks in the fall, are they not, Lloyd? So if you live on the east side of town from East 9 Mile up to Woodward Heights, from Hilton over to the Hazel Park border, you will be in the 2014 district. 2015 district, which in this year you could very well start to see some paintings and things on your sidewalk and know that that's what that's about. That is the area that we'll cover next year. Correct. Good. All right. Any other comments or discussion? Nope. Sherilyn, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Martin?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes. Thank you. That item is adopted. Moving now to call the audience. Call the audience is half an hour now and more time if needed at the end of the meeting for anyone in the audience to come and address council on any issue that's not on the agenda, because we'll give you an opportunity to speak to that issue when we get to that portion of the agenda. So give us your name and your address, and 3 minutes is yours.
All right, my name is Joan Shield, 342 Withington, Ferndale 48220. This is the first time I've been able to come to have my remarks on the 360 project to a city council meeting. It all started for the project because we needed additional parking for customers basically 2 nights a week, which sometimes they needed and sometimes they didn't. But it ballooned into new office buildings and more than 100 or more apartment buildings across the street, which adds to the basic number of autos that are going to be there, period, not necessarily the additional ones. What's the effect of this big production on old sewer system, old water lines, and the electric lines? It probably, as far as the parking and everything, it'll probably affect as far as additional parking and more problem getting parking, probably within a quarter of a mile or so in every direction, but possibly Woodward Avenue, although that could be affected also. This September, during the Ferndale Flunky Art Fair, I had a garage sale at which I interviewed and talked to about 75 to 100 people. And I asked them if they knew what was being proposed. And the main answer for everybody was said, yeah, a parking structure. I said, well, did you hear about the 360? Oh, is that what those signs are there? Yes. What does that mean? And I told them what it involved. And their reaction was, oh, no. Or, you're kidding. And that's awful. Another thing that they kept saying is to say, well, we can vote on it. And I said, no, as far as I know, there's going to be no vote on it at all from us. A lot of the people said, and a lot of the people that I interviewed were of all ages. I would say maybe a little bit more with the younger than the older. But their main thing was, well, this is why I moved to Ferndale. The quaintness of the Ferndale, the smallness of Ferndale. They also said that that's why they moved from Royal Oak and Birmingham, because of the large buildings and all the stuff that was going on. It just wasn't what they were looking for. For several years, I volunteered for WFRN. I came to all of these meetings. We also had meetings for things of special interest to the people, which, of course, I believe this is very much of special interest. And we had them in the high school, and I know there were times when I got home at 3 o'clock in the morning and had to get up and go to work the next day on it. But there were several in the many years that I worked on with the station that we had these special meetings to discuss all of this kind of stuff. I'm asking, what polls have you taken regarding to the proposal? There needs to be more understandable information put out to the people. You go on the website and you see this whole thing about all of this buildings and all this sort of stuff, and it's a little bit overwhelming to people that haven't gotten to it. In the new quarterly newsletter, which is very good, it had a lot of information what I could possibly do with my snow, there was no mention of 360. Basically, a good number of people do not know what the full implication of the 360 program is and what the expense and the expanse of the project is. And that's what my, this time, subject is.
Thank you. Good to see you. Good evening.
Hello. Hello. I'm Crystal Proxmeyer, and I do the Oakland County 115 website.
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it? Good, good. And there's actually a lot of information on there for the people that have questions about 360 if you're looking for an objective source. All the links, the documents and stuff are on there, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. But it is a good resource for people that have those kind of questions. What I am here about is a story that I did back in August, which actually, I didn't do the story. Kurt Metzger, who is the mayor of Pleasant Ridge, actually did the story. And we ran it on October 26th, and it was about voter turnout rates in the primary election. He's very good with statistics and eloquent and stuff, so I'm going to read part of what he wrote in this for you guys today, because we do have an election coming up, and I know that before elections, generally, somebody comes up and talks about this. So,
thank you.
Well, the country celebrated the turnout that accompanied Barack Obama's first election, particularly among young voters and persons of color. These numbers have not held up. It is clear from the Oakland County primary results that communities with lower income and lower educational attainment had the lowest voter turnout. It is critical that efforts are made in schools, in churches, and through social service organizations to increase the vote in these communities. Distrust in government and a feeling that they don't care about us is not a reason for not voting. Rather, it is exactly the reason to vote, to give the politicians the reasons they need to pay attention. The Democratic candidates have increasingly campaigned less and less in Detroit because turnout is historically so low, and the vast majority of voters go to the polls vote Democratic. Communities such as Pontiac, Hazel Park, Royal Oak Township, and Madison Heights will continue to experience less attention if they cannot put forth a stronger showing in November. Now, he mentions those cities, but the thing that really struck me was where Ferndale actually fell in this. And if you go to the website, there's a chart with all the cities. Lake Inglis, which has 248 voters, they did well.
Show off.
They did well. They got 48.25% of their turnout, and Huntington Woods was second with 34. But of the 50 communities in Oakland County, Ferndale was number 43. We were down pretty close to the bottom of the list. And that surprised me because, as you know, I've been covering Ferndale News for 5 years. You know, we're supposedly a community that's involved and that gets it, but it's a really low number. And it's not a competition, but it is the way that people get heard and the way that decisions get made. So I hope the people will not let us be near the bottom of the list for the election on November 4th, and that people will actually get out and vote, and maybe we can even beat Lake Inglis in this. Thanks.
Great reminder. Thank you, Crystal. Dennis, good evening.
Dennis Augustin, 1550 Spencer. I got a question. When I pull permits and I do building here in Ferndale, I am held right to the book. There is a building being built in the backyard over on my street that this thing is strictly commercial. It is encroaching on boundaries of all sorts and height requirements. I just seen the trusses there as I went by there. This building ain't going to be under 15 feet. And with about 12 to 14 feet of poles sticking out of the ground, that building's going to be humongous. Now, when I've gone before zoning boards and that, I've heard everything from letters written back in 1930 and people saying, you know, hey, everything's fine, the neighbors were happy with this size of building. City said no because of some little law, some little letter that was written back in the 30s and that. And plus they couldn't get too close to an alley that runs parallel to Wanda. And this is, I'm using that as an example there because one of the jobs that I had, the street did run, the alley did run parallel to the homeowner's street. But I still had to move it on over, regardless, and actually cut the size of my project because of lot size and that. Now, when I built my garage in my backyard, I was told that if I was 1/8 of an inch over, I better find out a way of how to get that building, that roof line down. And that was at 15 feet, which is the same thing that the building inspector uses now, because the last garage that I built, the last building I built in Ferndale, it was those same requirements. Plus, I could not encroach on the neighbors, on the fence line between the neighbor's house and that old alleyway that was back there. I had to come alley plus what the city said. In other words, there was about 14 feet off of that.
Dennis, what is the location of this structure that you're
I
referring to?
believe it's right on the corner. It's on the corner of Wanda and Spencer, and the garage is right off of Spencer. And then, I mean, I got no problem with the guy building his garage. I really don't. I wanted one bigger, but the city said no, I couldn't. And whenever I've gone to pull permits and build in various cities, including Ferndale, this is what I've come up against. And now I see a commercial-sized building going in a guy's backyard.
Well, fortunately, we have our Director of Economic Development, and so I will ask him to look into this for you and to tell you what's going on there and whether it's per code or not. So
if you're going to let one guy do it and you're going to let one, and this guy is a contractor, if you're going to let him do it, let all the people do it.
Well, everyone's got to follow the rules.
I wanted a couple of more feet on my building, both width and depth, and I couldn't get it.
Does Derek have your contact information? If not, do you know Derek? Raise your hand.
I know
Yep,
Derek.
you know Derek. I figured you did. Thanks, Dennis. Chris, good evening.
Good evening. We aren't on the agenda, but
I would have put you on presentations. I didn't
That's
see you
all right.
hiding behind back
I'll try
there.
to be under 3 minutes.
All right.
Communications and Marketing Manager for the DDA. I'm here to give you an update on what's going on, and once again, there's a lot going on in downtown Ferndale. We just finished 2 great events. One was Fido Does Ferndale. That was on Thursday, October 16th. Brought a lot of dogs and their owners to town for a wonderful dog meet dog evening. This past Saturday, the district hosted Trick or Treat for costume kids, and everyone was costumed. It was fun. The shop owners, the kids, their parents. We had a great crowd of people out there, and it was beautiful weather and candy. I don't know what else you need to have a great night. So now we're going to look ahead, and it keeps being crazy. This Wednesday, on October 29th, it'll be FernNet, which is our B2B networking for downtown businesses and their neighbors, plus we're going to talk about the holidays that are coming up, which I'm going to get into in a minute, but we're going to offer lots of opportunities for our businesses on advertising throughout the holiday season and improving their bottom line. FernNet will be at the DDA office at 149 West 9 Mile. It will include coffee and something sweet because we require that. And information is free. There'll be lots of give and take, and you'll learn lots of great things on how to promote the holidays for your business in downtown Ferndale. Once again, I'm going to run over our holidays really quickly. The biggest thing that we've got coming up right at us is Holiday Hoof. Does this still work? I don't know where the camera shows up, but anyhow, is it up right side up? Okay.
Yep, you had it.
Saturday, November 22nd is Holiday Hoof, and it's a nighttime holiday-themed obstacle run, which I don't know if everybody knows about that, but it is a hoot. It takes you from downtown, around town, and back downtown again. Entries are now available to be placed at active.com, and every entrant receives a free pass to Festivale, which is One-Eyed Betty's spectacular homage to the holidays. It is feature Christmas craft beers and cold weather comfort foods. Plus you get some swag and all kinds of good stuff, and it's a really great time in downtown Ferndale. At 8 o'clock that night, we have a special guest who will show up at the Woodward Median to light the Woodward Avenue Christmas trees. It will be Metalliclaus. I think I've mentioned him before, but you really need to see this if you haven't. So come on out. It's a free event. It's fun. It's a great way to start off the holiday. We'll light the tree. Hopefully you'll all be there to join in the hoopla, and it'll be a good evening. If you don't want to run or enjoy the cold weather comfort food, we do need volunteers. Well, it takes about 60 plus volunteers to make this event happen, and so we encourage you to join our herd of growing volunteer hoofers. You can call the DDA at 248-546-1632 or send us an email at info@downtownferndale.com and tell us that you're going to raise your hand and be there. One of the next, after that's over, because we can't stop, a week later is Small Business Saturday, and that's going to be our business kickoff really to the holidays. We have partnered with American Express. You don't have to have an American Express car or be an American Express dealer to participate, but we have partnered with them to really promote this event and really get people to shop local. It's very important to our economy. It's important to each and every one of our businesses, and we've got all kinds of things planned. You can get a little tote bag that's really cool, and we'll have a whole day of events. We're encouraging people to start with a breakfast at one of our great breakfast places, and they'll get a passport for discounts, and then when they're done shopping, they'll enter that passport into a drawing and win something, and it just goes, it's an awesome day. And it's to promote small business, but it's mostly to promote downtown Ferndale and support the businesses that are here. So I hope that everybody comes out. You'll know more about that on downtownferndale.com. I don't think there'll be another opportunity to present again, but you'll visit that to find out details on that. After November, we just go into full holiday mode. December 13th is our Holiday Ice Festival, which is a day-long event with free photos with Santa, reindeer, etc. And then December 18th is Merry Moonlight Madness for late night shopping for late night shoppers. All the details on all this will be found on downtownferndale.com. I now want to take 1 second to say thank you very much for a great run. I have to change courses, and I am going to, and it's been wonderful to brag and boast about downtown Ferndale. And that's all I'm going to say because I'll cry, which I'm so mad at myself. So anyway, it's been wonderful. Thank you for your attention, all you people at home. And I'll be around because I'm volunteering for Holiday Hoop. I already got snagged into that.
So don't leave, Chris.
I'm not leaving.
Because, I mean, don't leave just for this minute, because I want to brag on you for a minute. You've been 6 years of promoting our downtown. Nobody's had more passion and energy towards all the events that happen downtown. I said it in my email to you, and I mean it. We consider you an honorary resident of the city. You don't live here, but you certainly act. You're as passionate about Ferndale as anybody that does. Yeah. So on behalf of the entire city and the residents of the city, thank you very, very much for all of your passion and hard work and energy.
I didn't want to cry because I did want to say something that I think is important, is that I came in here, I don't live in Ferndale, and I think it's a good thing when somebody can come in here and they look at it from a point of view that, like you never noticed that thing in the corner that's really ugly in your house you need to take care of, or you didn't realize how beautiful that thing in the corner was. So it's been a great opportunity for me to discover all the wonderful things about Ferndale and realize that it just keeps going on and on. So you have a wonderful town. I'm not leaving. I'll be around. I just had to make some switches. So thank you.
You've been a big part of
Chris. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Craig Covey. I live at 276 West Breckenridge. It occurred to me that we, as we're starting to work on the 2015 Blues Festival, I had failed to ever show up and give you a report on last year's Blues Festival. The checks are actually just going out. It took a little while this year. But the 2014 Blues Festival, held last winter, netted in proceeds after expenses a total of $16,467. That was down about 20% from the previous year due to the winter of 2014, mostly from the barbecue tent. But still, those were the proceeds, and out of that, tomorrow we present Ferndale Youth Assistance with $4,116, and the Michigan AIDS Coalition for AIDS Prevention Education received $12,350. Again, I just always like to share that. I think it's important when we put these events on that people understand where the funds go, at least for the charitable groups that we do. And with that, I can share that we have begun planning the 2015 Ferndale Blues Festival. I've lost track. Chris might know, I think it's the 15th or the 16th annual, but we've already secured our top sponsor. Mr. Dean Bach has already applied, I think, for the barbecue tent. Also, I can share with you that we have finalized the funds raised from about the 17th annual Ferndale Pub Crawl that was held in July. And so in the next week or two, donation checks are going to be going to the Detroit Derby Girls, to the Ferndale Police Auxiliary Dinner on Saturday, and to the Ferndale Community Foundation, and to the Michigan AIDS Coalition. So Monica Mills and I will bring you the final report so that you know the exact numbers for the Ferndale Pub Crawl. Those numbers were actually up considerably this past year. And finally, this coming, well, not this coming, but on November 9th is the annual Ferndale Youth Assistance Bowl-a-thon. That's one of our most important fundraisers. So if you could mark that on your calendar, we have teams that we're forming. The court has a team. There's always some of the police officers, some of the fire officers. If any of the councilmen would like to come by again, it's at Luxury Lanes, Sunday, November the 9th from 1 to 4 p.m. And with that, thank you kindly. And thanks, Chris, for all your work promoting all the festivals downtown.
Thank you. Bill, good evening.
How you doing? Yeah, Bill Axtell, 813 West Drayton. As a member of the Ferndale Memorial Association, I just wanted to call attention to November 11th. It's Veterans Day. We'll have our annual Veterans Day observance. Certainly everyone in the community is welcome to attend. It's a Tuesday because they hold to the 11th month of the 11th day of the 11th month, actually 11th hour is when the armistice was signed for World War I. So rather than just shunt it off to a weekend, we stick with November 11th, which makes it a little bit tricky for people to get there on a Tuesday. But certainly everyone who can make it over to Memorial Mall, they're welcome to attend. We look forward to you as a way to salute our veterans. We have a guest speaker, Brigadier General Arthur G. Austin, Jr. He served for 37 years in the military all over the world, recipient of the Bronze Star and numerous other commendations. And just wanted to put that and plant that seed amongst people that they can make it out there. It's a relatively short observance, but I think it's one that is a real benefit to our community. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Phil. Keith, good evening.
Good evening. Keith Warnick, 800 La Prairie, the fabulous French Quarter of Ferndale. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. As Cheryl said, as Crystal said, November 4th is election, and as was the first case in 2012, school board elections are now with the general election in November. You'll find the ballot for the school board candidates on the bottom of the page, just above the issues about the wolves. So keep that in mind. And I've been asked to run again this year. So thank you for that. Some of you may ask me why I've been asked to run and why I've decided to do this. A lot of parents over the last couple of years, citizens, and especially employees have asked me or told me they wished I was back on the board. So I felt if I didn't step up, I'd let them down, and I've decided to follow through on that. It's a grassroots campaign. I'm the candidate, I'm the campaign manager, I'm the treasurer, and I'm the chief marketing guy. That's why I'm here talking about myself tonight instead of somebody else. Also like to thank the city clerk for all of the voting data I was able to get from her. It helped tremendously. And all of my supporters that have contributed to my small but growing grassroots campaign. If you're looking for any more information about me, Keith Warnick is my name. It's also my website. You can find a lot of information through the Woodward Talk, online through CNG News, also through Ferndale Friends, and I had an ad in that magazine also. Daily Tribune and MLive all have various articles about us, about myself, and a lot of information about moving this district forward. And something off campaign topic for those of you that don't know, on November 18th, the Ferndale High School is having a blood drive again. They have about 3 or 4 years. I've been going every year for the last 4 years, and if you're not busy on the 18th, you can sign up online with redcross.com, or .org, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address council this evening? All right. If not, we'll move on to the next item of business, which is our consent agenda. These are items that we consider routine and we enact in one motion unless council pulls something from the consent agenda. Let me read that for you now. Item A is the approval of the minutes of the regular and special meetings held October 13, 2014, as submitted by the city clerk. Item B is the approval to purchase the Barracuda Message Archiver Model 350 with a 1-year mandatory Energizer updates and 1-year instant replacement from Preferred Data Systems in the amount of $6,406.05. Item C is the approval to amend Chapter 18, Administration, Section 204, Management of the Ferndale Code of Ordinances as submitted by the Chief Innovation Officer. And finally, item D is the approval of the bills and payroll as submitted by the City Manager's Office, subject to the review of the Council Finance Committee. What is Council's pleasure on the consent agenda this evening?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved by Piana and supported by Lennon. Any discussion on the consent agenda this evening? Nobody wants to know what a Barracuda Message Archiver Model 350 is? All right, last chance.
Joe's got about 36 slides on it. So.
Okay, I'll see you later. Sherilyn, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Polika? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, there he is. Councilman Polika.
Support.
Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The consent agenda is adopted. Moving on to the regular agenda. Item A is a consideration to appoint Jerome Raska and Jackie Smith to the Downtown Development Authority Board of Directors. I don't see either one of them here, but they are no stranger to council or to our community because both Jackie and Jerome had previously served on the DDA, and you'll notice their applications are from their previous stint on the DDA. Jackie owns Coventry Creations.
And the Candlewick Shop.
And Candlewick Shop, right here on West 9 Mile. And Jerome is one of the owners of J.R. Blooms by Design Florist. I'm excited. I bring these nominations forward to you. These are appointments of the mayor with the consent of council. And I bring these forward to you with enthusiasm that these two people, both their experience in the city, their previous experience on the DDA, their retail experience, will bring a nice fit to our Downtown Development Board of Directors. So I would humbly ask your support of those two nominations.
I'll move that to confirm the appointments of Jackie Smith and Jerome Raska to the Downtown Development Authority for a term ending December 31st, 2016 and December 31st, 2015, respectively.
Support.
Moved by Martin and supported by Polika. Any discussion?
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful candidates. These are great.
Agree.
You're here.
All right. Cheryl, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Piana.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Regular agenda item B is the consideration of the Ferndale District Library Agreement. And we have a whole bunch of folks from the library here with us tonight. We're graced with maybe the entire board, although Tiffany Gagne tells me to make sure you say that I would have been there, except I'm on my way to South Carolina to get my son Josh from boot camp, or I would have been there. So she wanted me to say that. But I think just about everybody else is here. But Jessica, are you going to introduce that? Do we have an introduction before that, April or Dan, before they begin their presentation?
I don't really believe so, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Yeah, no, that's-
There is before you for this evening a proposed district library agreement for consideration. My understanding is there is several screens that are going to be communicated to the audience,
Yeah. So, Jessica, are you the MC of this? Oh, and your board chair, Pat Dengray. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I just want to start out by saying thank you for having us here tonight. On behalf of the library board and the staff, we are really grateful that you recognize the importance of the library in the community and that we've gotten the support from you. I really feel that in the future, people will look back on this moment in history and see it as a positive milestone for the community. So to get started, I've got some information about the library and what we're doing over there. The main things that we are providing are access to technology, lifelong learning, appreciation of art, music, and culture, youth programming, but really programming for all ages, and of course, research support. One of our major initiatives is enriching the Ferndale schools. And I'm really proud to say that for the first time ever this year, we managed to get into every single curriculum night in the Ferndale public school system. It's been a challenge historically getting into every school consistently. We've kind of had some sporadic or inconsistent relationships with the individual schools, but we've really gotten on track with getting into all of the schools and getting a more consistent program so that we're reaching all of the students in the district. We are an anchor in the downtown. We drive business and people into the city with our programming and our resources. We are a member of the Library Network, which provides our residents with access to 65 network libraries and over 1 million books, CDs, and DVDs. The mission of the library is to strengthen the community by providing access to materials and services that inform, enrich, entertain, and empower. And these are all things that we want to maintain and grow. And our vision is to be a leader in building and sustaining Ferndale as a creative city that attracts and nurtures talent, mobilizes ideas, stimulates innovation, and encourages diversity. The library is a center of cultural vitality and participation that enhances the quality of life for all of the Ferndale residents. And those are some statistics from the last year. We circulated nearly 200,000 items. We answered over 45,000 reference questions. We interloaned over 25,000 items from other libraries through our participation with the Library Network and Melcat, which is a statewide lending service. We served about 87,000 people with computers on site and our wireless. And we had about 7,500 people attend programs and about 170,000 annual visits. And now I will introduce Pat Dengate, our board president, to talk about some of our challenges that we're facing currently.
Or not.
I got the Sorry.
You're
I
fine.
apparently marked the wrong page.
Okay.
So we are facing some challenges, and County Commissioner Helene Zach laid perfect groundwork. What she talked about with millages versus dollars brought in is exactly our challenge in a nutshell. We've seen a decline in annual library tax revenue. Currently, it's about $316,000 less per year than it was in 2009. We've been making up some of the difference through things like fundraising and grants, but we're still seeing a cumulative loss of $843,000 since 2009 in library revenue. And at the same time, we do have a bond that we're repaying for the beautiful renovation that was done on the library and completed in 2010. So as our revenue is going down, our bond payments annually go up. And we're seeing, right now, we're about $80,000 higher than we were in 2009 for that obligation. So things that we've done to address these issues are cutting costs. We found savings in liability insurance, janitorial services. We have been recovering more lost materials through use of an outside collection agency, and we did have to cut back on our staffing. We laid off 2 people in July. The biggest cost savings is also the most painful. We've reduced our hours that were open to the public. We were previously open 56 hours a week. We're down to 45. Things that we're doing to try to make up that difference, we get a ton of support from our friends. They do a lot to help us. We are engaging in a fundraising campaign that we're calling Make Your Mark on the Ferndale Library. And we've participated in several events in the community, including the Pig and Whiskey Festival, the Blowout, and the Day of Books and Roses. And this is just another way of representing our revenue and our expenses. You'll see that about 90% of our revenue is still based on millage. We get a tiny bit from the state, and then the other is mostly penal fines and fees that we collect at the library. Our biggest expenses are operations for staff. Bond payment is about 30% currently. Collections are a fairly small percentage of our overall cost. Is this the part you wanted to jump in? Okay. Now I will introduce Pat Dengate, our board president.
All right.
Thank you. Mayor, council, thanks for having us.
Hi, Pat.
Most of our board is here. Tiffany isn't here tonight, and Adrienne Gilmore isn't here because her little baby daughter doesn't feel well.
Oh.
So we miss her being here, and I hope her daughter feels better soon. So we have a number of challenges, as both Jessica and our Helene Zach, our county commissioner, pointed out. One way we can address these is by forming a district library. This screen here compares the 2 laws under which a library might be organized. Currently, we're under PA Public Act 164, which was enacted almost 150 years ago. The law is contradictory in some places, and it's quite a hodgepodge of revisions through the decades. Under PA 164, our library is capped at 2 mills as far as funding. The city serves as a fiscal agent. There are 6-year board terms. Now, under the District Library Establishment Act, which was enacted in 1989, much more current, obviously, a library that's organized as a district library can ask the voters for up to 4 mills to fund operations. They become an independent taxing authority, and there are 4-year board terms. And that's just a real general, overview of the differences. You can see by this bar graph that district libraries make up by far the majority of library types in the state, double what we find city libraries to be in number, and townships come in second place there, but that's
Pat,
a good...
is the DLEA that you, on the previous slide?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, maybe we should hold questions to the end, but this is just a minor thing, but is that expiring at the end of the year? Is that the...
Oh, no, that law does not expire, but there's a provision within it which allows municipalities to form library districts with school districts. And that portion of the act is expiring at the end of this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
It
I
has
didn't
a
mean to,
sunset date.
we'll wait for questions. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's
I just-
okay. That's fine.
It just hit me that.
Yeah. So, to your point, here are some examples of district libraries that were formed between a municipality and a school district. And there are several around the state. So potential benefits of a district library within the community: more programming, expanded collection, restore and even extend hours, increase the staff. We could provide more materials to the school district as well as the community, expand outreach, support student success, and there's a potential for shared services between the school district and the library. So the process is to draft a library agreement, and that includes members of each of the bodies which are entering into the agreement: the city, school board, the library board. Step 2 is then, once that, as part of the drafting process, there's a number of things to decide, and that's such as how the board's going to be constituted or created, appointed or elected, how it'll be funded, how amendments will be done, what it's to be called, the territory, things like that are some of the items that need to be addressed. And then there's the approval process. The 3 bodies approve it: city, school board, the library board, and then finally the state librarian checks it and makes the final approval. Whoops, going the wrong way. Whoops, where am I going? Well, I guess I'm good. So there's a big thumbs up. So we feel we've done our due diligence. Each of the bodies, the library board, the school board, the city council members, have consulted with their legal counsel and with each other, and had some good conversations about what would be best for the community. And this is where we stand at this point. The school board approved the agreement a week ago today. The library board approved unanimously on October 23rd. And we are here tonight for you to consider the agreement. We trust you've reviewed it, and we're asking for city council to approve the agreement, and we can send it on to the state librarian. If you have any questions, I want to point out that if the Ferndale Public Library were to become the Ferndale Area District Library, there's not going to be anything earth-shattering that will change right off the bat. We won't, unfortunately, see an increase in hours or hiring back of staff. Funding essentially will stay the same. What we're doing here is laying it's a first step. We're laying a foundation for the future, and hopefully a more secure and a library that better meets the needs of the public and really puts into effect our strategic plan. So, thanks again for having us.
Well, good. Who's going to handle questions? Both of you want to come back up? Okay, good. If we could turn the lights up just so we could read our notes. Excellent. So, thank you. By the way, congratulations and my compliments on the PowerPoint, which is like the best one we've ever seen, ever. So whoever did that.
No offense, Joe.
Right? Am I lying? So, questions, comments of council? Questions of fact, I guess.
Well, I wanted just to talk a little bit about my role that I've had with the library board as well as the school district and being the city council liaison that worked on this agreement to get it to this point. So I think Helene Zach did set up the conversation fairly appropriately about millage rates going up and people paying less money and less revenue coming in, which is pretty much the shared problem that most public entities and municipalities have. And so it is just through this lens that we look at helping support each organization. But I think it's really important that we talk about some of the details of the agreement because I think our taxpayers and our voters need to understand truly what this really means in terms of creating a district library. Because we're sort of ending the Ferndale Library as an entity and creating a new entity with the same people but a different set of guidelines and an agreement. So, and that's sort of the technical approach to creating the Ferndale, or the district library, the Ferndale District Library. So I would like to launch with a couple questions, if you don't mind. So I think, Pat, you alluded to it, but I was wondering if you could just sort of clarify why is it important for the library to create a district now and not in 2015?
Well, as Mayor Coulter pointed out, the ability for us to form with a school district is sunsetting at the end of this year. There is an effort on the state level to remove that sunset from the District Library Establishment Act, but as of yet they have not been successful in doing that. So we really feel that in our community, with the relationship that we have with the schools, this would be the ideal formation model for us to be a district with the schools and start with that. It does lay the foundation where if other communities nearby wanted to join our district in the future, they would have that possibility. But we really feel that starting with the school district would be ideal for Ferndale, and now is the time to do that.
Okay. And if council chose not to pass the agreement tonight and form a library district, what other ways could the library create a district that was separate from the sunset for the school district joining a district library?
We could partner with another neighboring community. It would involve merging library operations with whatever other operations they had in the municipality. So if we were to partner with Hazel Park or Royal Oak Township or Oak Park, we would have to kind of negotiate and figure out how to merge services and merge staff. And often they find that the only way to save money in those situations is to close a building. And right now, I don't think that any of our neighbors are prepared to do that or want to do that, and we certainly don't.
Right. So can you describe to me if merging services is right now not the most appropriate thing to do to create a district library, right? That between two municipalities?
That would be an option. It would be a possibility, but it would likely involve closing one city's library down, and I don't see any neighboring city interested in doing that right now.
So part of the district library agreement is cities can join the district library. So how would they be able to keep open their library if they join the district without actually closing it?
Well, It would be a discussion for the future, and it would depend on the municipality in question. So there could be a municipality in the future that decides that they would like to move their services to Ferndale and possibly shut down, but I don't think that anybody's in that position right now. Or possibly we could talk about combining, but that's not where we're at right now.
I should point out, if I could, we did approach our neighbor to the north, Pleasant Ridge, early on in the spring with some informal talks about putting together a district library between Ferndale and Pleasant Ridge, who, you know, as we know, doesn't have their own library. They contract for that. That was something that we had pursued earlier this year, and Pleasant Ridge wasn't interested at this time. But they too would have the option. Of course, they don't have their own library, so that issue of closing the facility, wouldn't be.
May I ask a clarification question just to piggyback about that? But this is a library. The district is really a system, though, right? And this is just for my own clarification. Once you establish the new board for the library, it is at their discretion. If there is a future partnership, say Oak Park decides they do want to do this, or Hazel Park decides they do want to do this, if the funding mechanism supported it, you could still maintain multiple buildings within the district, correct?
Yes, and I didn't mean to
Okay. No, I just wanted to clarify.
that wouldn't, but yes.
Are you finished with your?
If you have a question, please go ahead.
Well, I generally don't get things as quickly as the average Ferndalian. So I'm not sure how, I guess I don't understand how can we as a council and the school board, as a school board, basically create a document to eliminate elected officials. The school board members were elected officials by the people. So our two bodies basically are saying the people have no say in this if we create this.
Dan, do you want to talk about the legal mechanism to create
the enabling legislation does provide for that, and as was already indicated, the library board has weighed in and passed a resolution, I believe last Wednesday, supporting the participating municipalities, which is the school district and the city, going forward with this proposed district library agreement. So that's the mechanism that the statute authorizes that.
Okay.
But to that point, it is, just to be clear, it's not a partnership between the library, the city, and the school district. Once this happens, the library is no more. So it's essentially a partnership agreement between the school district and the city to create a district library.
The library has created an opportunity to dissolve themselves.
Right.
And allow the city and the school board to then create a new entity.
Is that essentially correct, Dan?
Yeah. Correct. I mean, there is a language, I mean, in a worst-case scenario, if there was a termination, there is kind of a reverter provision that would come into effect should certain circumstances happen, pretty remote a possibility. But in essence, you're correct. It would the current Ferndale Library Board, once the agreement, should the agreement be approved by council and should the agreement be approved by the state librarian, would then, after, as proposed, the city would appoint that initial interim provisional district library board, and then it would no longer be in effect, the current Ferndale Library Board.
Okay, and so my next question has to do with the millage that was taken out for the building several years ago. Since the library, in essence, is being dissolved, is there any legal issue that may come down the road because voters in the past said, we want to pay for this library, and now you're putting it under the control of a new entity?
In the documentation, there's a proposed property transfer that would provides for the assumption of the Ferndale Public Libraries agreements I'm not sure as I speak right now whether there's a specific reference to that obligation of the library, but I believe there is a reference in the document.
Well, and with, yes, I do, yeah, we do have the paperwork there, but in essence, it's true. We're basically agreeing to take over all of the contracts and obligations, and in the agreement, the way that it was worked out, the city is agreeing to continue to maintain the status quo of our current mills, which is 1.9601, until and if the district library in the future chooses to go for a replacement millage.
So there is a possibility with the district library, you going to the public in the future, and there's potential there to increase the mills.
Yes.
Well, I have a follow-up question. So does creating the district library, does that cancel the 2 mills under the Public Act of 164, which is the current library? So,
No.
And then, or do you get 6 mills total then? Up to
There's
6 mills?
As proposed in the agreement, there's an interim period in which the current authorized mill under Public Act 164 would continue until such time as the new proposed district library board were to decide to submit to the voters a district-wide millage question, which the electors would have an opportunity to weigh in on that issue. And there would not be an addition of the current Public Act 164 millage and the district library millage. It would sunset should there be approval of that district-wide district library millage. That would end the interim period.
But to underscore that point, if I may, there's no arbitrarily increasing the number of mills. As it existed and everything else, it has to go before the voters to
a district-wide
vote.
District library millage question would have to be submitted to the voters.
Okay, so it would be the new district then, including what essentially now is the school district. Am I correct?
Not all school districts. As proposed, the district library boundaries are the city of Ferndale and the Ferndale Public School District minus the territory that is in the city of Pleasant Ridge, the city of Oak Park, and the township of Royal Oak.
So it's Ferndale and Ferndale?
Correct.
Okay.
As currently configured.
Okay.
Any other questions, Greg? Or for
No,
now,
I
we're gonna
think.
pause for now, or?
Yeah, it's heating up here, but yeah.
No, you have a
Yeah, well, in your slides leading up to one of the potential benefits of creating the library, which is clear that you're looking for more revenue based off of the $834,000 decline over the since 2009. And I was wondering, what is your interest in terms of raising the mills to help offset the costs? So 1 mill in Ferndale is approximately, what, $525,000? So, right, 2 mills would raise you over $1 million, which would cover the cost of the revenue that you lost over since 2009. So I was just wondering what you think you need in anticipation of bringing revenue up to where you think it should be based off of the declining numbers. Because I see that lots of your potential benefits is more programming, expanded collection of books, restore hours, and larger staff. So you're looking to restore what you've had, but also grow with a millage increase.
Very potentially, yes. And we've run a few scenarios, and we've found that depending on when in the future we would be ready and wanting to go for a millage, what the property values would be worth at that time. To achieve the goals in our strategic plan fully, we were thinking between 2.8 and 3.5 mills in total. And just to be perfectly clear, somebody had thrown out the number 6 mills. It wouldn't ever be possible for the district library to go for 6 mills. We would be capped at 4. So the 2 mills that we're at right now is the interim funding, and any millage that would be sought in the future would be what would be known as a replacement millage. It would wipe out the interim funding.
So just in comparison, the city has a Headley override that sunsets next year, and I think the city council approved up to the 5 mil cap to cover expenses, and that was really to cover police and fire services, and that was up to $2.5 million. So in essence, that doesn't cover the shortfall that the city has had in the same vein as the library. So we are definitely not capturing the total revenue that we've lost since the revenue. So what I'm hearing is that you're 1 mil away from the city's operating expenses as well. So I think just keep that in mind as you go to the voters and taxpayers in terms of, showing the value and benefits of raising that type of revenue to pay for services. So I think that's just something our voters will actually have to determine when you come to the ballot. On one of your slides, it's the potential benefit slides for the city. It says the library states that a benefit for the city means a reduction or ability to remove administrative burden. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, in the interim period, we're hoping to maintain the same contracts and relationships that we have with the city currently, but as a district library, the city is not obligated any longer to act as our fiscal agent, so there is the possibility that the city could release us, or we could release them from that, and they would no longer have the burden of doing our finances and our audit and our payroll and all the things that they're currently doing.
Well, I see it a little bit differently. I see it as a burden on the taxpayer, because right now the city is providing the Ferndale Library services for payroll, your retirement management, and financial services for $1,000 a year. So if you contracted that out and went and left the city, it is potentially more costly for the taxpayer to provide that service when you're getting a significant discount for the city. As we look for the city values, partnering with all of our municipal entities and providing shared services and doing cost reductions where possible, I would hope that the new library, Ferndale District Library Board, would consider continuing that relationship to offset any costs to the taxpayer and needing more mills in order to pay for it.
I think if I, again, just to piggyback off those comments, I think we've had in our goals, when we do planning sessions around this, for ever since I've been on council and probably beyond, to strengthen our partnerships and our working relationships with the library, with other entities. And I would want to reiterate or underline that that changing to a district format wouldn't nullify or take away that as a priority for us, whether it be collaboration to share administrative expense or just program work, or however we can continue to support each other better. I would not want to shake the commitment to that in any way.
I appreciate that sentiment, and we do feel the same way. And we feel like we've been on a really good trajectory with partnerships and collaboration with the city and with the schools, and we certainly want to keep going in that direction.
Speaking of the board, because this current board, as I understand it, would be dissolved by the end of the year if this agreement were approved and ratified by the state librarian. And this council appoints an interim board until another board is elected, Dan? I'm sorry.
Yes,
okay.
As set forth in the draft for the agreement that's been presented to you this evening, the city gets to, has the task of appointing that provisional board.
When does a new library, I would be interested to have elected representatives elected as quickly as feasible, but when does that have to happen, or when would you foresee that?
Happens at the first school election after 140 days after the creation of the agreement. So that's probably 2 years. I'm not sure what that is, but it would
2016.
Probably
November of 2016 is when we're realistically looking for the board to be elected.
So, in a district library has a 7-member board. So, currently we have a 6-member board. So there'd be 7 members of the board that the council would appoint. And as of December 31st, if everything went through, there'd simply be, the new board would come into existence and the old board would go away, so.
Well, one of the provisions in the agreement is that the city council gets to appoint the new library directors, and I'm just wanted to say here, even though it probably won't happen for a while, but I would be very supportive of continuing the leadership of our current board onward. So I think that makes sense to me. Can you talk about the withdrawal of the agreement? There's a provision in here that the city may, or the school district may choose to leave the district. Dan, maybe you can talk a little bit about that for us?
That's a required provision under the Act. The draft before you has a proposal. The state statute indicates that neither of the participating municipalities may withdraw from or terminate the agreement for the first year. As drafted before you, the language provides that neither of the participating municipalities will withdraw from the agreement for the first 5 years. So there's a commitment for the participating the school district and the city not exercising a withdrawal from the library agreement for 5 years.
And what happens, just hypothetically, 5 years from now, you're only a partner of two, so if one withdraws, you're a partner of one. Are you still a district, or does it revert back to something else?
Well, that's that contingency I talked to you about. If there was a circumstance that the termination resulted in the district library not being able to continue forward, the provision references the Ferndale Public Library taking back and control of the library.
Anecdotally, our attorney specializes in library law, and she said that she recently had a conversation with one of her colleagues who also specializes in library law, and between the two of them, they cover the majority of libraries in the state of Michigan. And she said that she asked her colleague anecdotally if he had ever heard of a district library choosing to withdraw and dissolve and go back to being a city or a township library, and neither one of them had ever had that experience in many decades of representing libraries.
In part, I imagine, because of the financial implications, right? Because they're probably leveraging more in millage.
And it's just a good setup for libraries to be structured.
On that point, I can't help but wonder, if it is a good setup, and maybe you can't answer this, who knows what goes on in the mind of legislators, but why have they decided to no longer allow school districts to be a partner in these district libraries? Do you know?
I was told that some people, and I really can't speak definitively on it, but it's been guessed that one of the reasons why they put that sunset in, or the reason they put the sunset in the first place, is that so many school district boundaries are really kind of confusing in the state, and that it made it difficult for the Library of Michigan at a state level to kind of oversee. And so they thought that by taking that out, it would simplify districts. And there is definitely a big desire to take that sunset clause out. It's just been a lack of ability to get it done in Lansing, basically.
Gotcha.
In many respects, I view it as, schools have parks and play equipment for the schools, but they're also used as city parks. It's kind of like the same here with the school libraries. And so that's kind of how I make sense of this agreement and going forward. Even though there's some sticky points in here for me, I feel like we've addressed all of them, which is why it's come to Council's consideration for tonight. I did have a final question, and I know one of the philosophies of the library is that everybody can get a library card, no matter where you live, and I was wondering if that would continue under the district library, given the boundaries of the district library.
Well, our circulation policy is that anybody who lives, works, or goes to school in Ferndale is eligible for a Ferndale library card. So I don't anticipate that circulation policy changing. And then where we have the wider ability to share services is through our library cooperative. So if somebody from another library, like Royal Oak, for instance, we get a lot of their patrons. If they have a Royal Oak library card, we can honor that because we're part of the same shared system. But somebody who lived in Royal Oak and didn't work or go to school in Ferndale would not be eligible for a Ferndale library card. They would have the option to purchase it for an annual fee, but they wouldn't get a free library card.
Well, to kind of back on that question, then I guess what is the advantage to the communities that might not have a library that is paying maybe another library to support them, but most of their residents actually use ours because it's closer, it's more convenient? I mean, that really doesn't encourage that boundary community to say, maybe we should partner with that city, because right now we're giving away the milk for free.
That's a matter that we have brought to the attention of the Library Network Board. They also have a board of directors that oversees what happens cooperative-wide. And generally, when a library sells a contract to another community for their services, they charge a comparable rate to what their own residents are paying. I know that we have an example nearby where that is not the case, and I really can't speak to why another community would give away the milk for free as they are, but it puts us all in a very uncomfortable situation. So we have brought that to the attention of the Library Network because they're really the ones who would have the ability to change their policies for our shared services.
Okay, thank you.
Well, one point I just want to bring up, and thank you for working with us on, is because it struck some of us at the 11th hour that somehow either the city or the school district could be financially liable if for some reason the board were to pass a budget that did not meet the revenues and there was a shortfall. And I know the school district passed this agreement with zero obligation to do that, and we've done that for the city as well. Hopefully that will meet muster with the folks at the state, but it was a concern of some of ours that the general taxpayers don't have an additional financial burden for the library other than what they would be willing to obviously support to the millage with that. So I see that provision is in here. So that means I trust it's acceptable to you folks that it's there.
Mayor, which, can you point that?
Well, I think we're on A, funding, and then 2A, city funding, and 2B is school district funding.
2A, city
Yeah,
The school districts, for some reason, is shorter. They shall have 0% obligation to provide funds for the school district library during the interim period or at any other time. And ours is similar in the line that says, the city shall not be required to provide any additional funding other than provided in this section during the interim period or at any other times, unless city's legislative body specifically approves such additional funding after the district library is formed.
Right. There was a provision there that was troublesome, I think, for some of the council, and that was removed. The reason our attorney originally had it in there is that a previous librarian of Michigan, for some reason, insisted it be in there. And so her habit has been since then that to put it in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't like something she might normally do, but because it had been an issue in the past, she thought, I'll just put it in there. It'll make them happy. We have a new librarian of Michigan, and we're very confident that they will be much easier to work with.
Okay.
So the only obligation in terms of funding from the city at this point is what we have exactly right now. Yeah.
Yep. City owns the building. We have that relationship, but nothing else.
The lease gets transferred, the fiscal agreement gets transferred, the employees get transferred contracts.
Right. Well, I appreciate that question because, at the end of the day, the district library is a new independent taxing authority. So for city council to have, the responsibility for covering shortfalls from elected officials responsible for managing their own budget didn't seem to make sense to me. So I appreciate that.
Other questions?
When, if approved tonight, when would this actually take effect?
Oh, great question. What happens next?
December 31st is when it's written.
Yeah, the effective date is proposed to be December 31st.
Okay.
Assuming that the state librarian approves it prior to that time period. The state librarian has 30 days after it's received to consider and approve the agreement.
And at that point, then the council appoints school board, or library board members?
Yes, they may wish to consider that prior to the end of the year.
Oh, so when January starts and they have to act like their own new body, but they're actually eligible to do so? Okay.
We need to make sure you have a boss.
We only have one council meeting in December, so I was, due to the holiday.
That's a good point. We
So,
should make sure
yeah.
that we address that in December. When will you hear from this state librarian, do you know, or who?
Well, we are certainly going to send it over to them as soon as we have the prior approvals in place, and then he does have 30 days, but we've had conversations, and they're anticipating that we might be sending something, and they understand the time frame that we're working under and are going to do their best to expedite the
You have the
process.
FedEx package ready, don't
Yes.
you? Okay. A motion would be in order, I suppose, at this point. Probably pass.
There is on the table a proposed resolution which would, as set forth, would approve the proposed district library agreement and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. Does everyone have a copy
Yep.
of the resolution?
I move to adopt the following resolution. The City of Ferndale, along with the Ferndale Public Schools and Ferndale Public Library, have considered the possibility of forming a district library under the District Library Establishment Act 1989, PA 24, as amended, and the City of Ferndale and Ferndale Public Schools are participating municipalities, authorized to enter in a district library agreement, and the Ferndale Public Library has considered and adopted a resolution approving a district library agreement. Now therefore it be resolved, the City of Ferndale approves establishing a district library with the Ferndale Public Schools pursuant to the Public Act as amended. And be further resolved that the City of Ferndale approves the district library agreement and directs the mayor to sign the district library agreement on behalf of the City of Ferndale.
Support. Moved by Councilwoman Piana, supported by Martin. Further discussion? And at this point, anyone from the audience that would like to address the issue is welcome to as well. Seeing none, Sherlyn, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Lennon?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That resolution is adopted. Thank you. Although if Tiffany doesn't show up in December, I'm not reappointing her. Just kidding. Just kidding. Next item of business is call to council. I see our police chief in the back of the room. Do you have anything else for the good of the community, chief?
Briefly, Your Honor, obviously, we have Halloween coming up this weekend, and as we do every year, we'd like to remind all of our residents and our motorists to be careful when it gets dark out. Keep an eye on the kids crossing, and please, parents, do not follow your children in your cars. Get out, walk with them. It creates a hazard with the headlights facing the wrong way when they do that, and sometimes you can't see the people crossing the street in front of you. So we're just asking folks to get out and walk with their kids, have a good time. We've been very lucky for the last 10 years where we haven't had the Devil's Night issues or the Halloween issues, so we're hoping to keep that record going.
And to reiterate, we don't have set hours.
We don't.
Some communities do. We don't.
That's fine. We'll get a dozen calls about when does Halloween start, but we're used to that.
Okay, very good. Derek, anything from Community and Economic Development this evening?
Yes, good evening. Just a couple of quick things that I know have been talked about in the past. Recently, staff and myself, we attended a meeting with the developers of the potential developers of the State Fair site. They gave a presentation to the Woodward Avenue Action Association, The group, Redico, does have a purchase agreement with the State Land Bank right now to purchase the property. They are rolling out a conceptual plan that they presented to the WA3 and intend to begin the process of negotiating a development with the City of Detroit shortly. So that's all we know at this point, is that they have that purchase agreement. They have not closed on the site yet, but we thought we would give you a quick update as to where they stand. Also, I attended a scoping meeting with the Michigan Department of Transportation, in which recently the department did an engineering study on Woodward from 8 Mile to 16 Mile. Regarding the road and the road base. They have started looking at the potential for resurfacing that road sometime in the future, most likely in the far future. They have not indicated they have any funding for that yet, but we have met with them on a couple occasions to discuss implementing the complete streets policies of the city and additional improvements if that road is to be resurfaced. So we'll keep you updated as that goes forward as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Derek. I see one of our school board members, Raylon Leaks-May. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Jill, anything from the Recreation Department?
Just a couple quick announcements. I know I missed the last council meeting. A couple weeks ago, we had our annual Hilton Fall Festival. So I'd just like to take a minute and thank everyone that came out. We had a great day, great weather. Certainly like to thank all of our volunteers. We certainly wouldn't be able to do it without their help. So I just wanted to quick thanks to everybody. Secondly, we back over the summer, council approved the Recreation Department switching our registration software, and we are in our final stages of getting the site up and running. We're set to go live just before Thanksgiving. So just wanted to give everyone a heads up, probably roughly the second week in November. I'll have some information on the city site on how you can create your login. Everyone that's in our current system will not be transferred over. You'll need to set up your own account so that you're able to register for programs online. Just look for more information coming soon. And lastly, coming up on December 6th is our annual holiday showplace, Arts and Craft Fair. So we are currently accepting vendor applications. If you have goods that you'd like to sell, those are available online, ferndalemi.gov, or at the Kulik Center. Thank you.
Excellent. Fire Chief Sullivan, what's new from the fire department this year?
Well, Your Honor, I'd like to touch on a few issues that the police chief hit on, leaves. With Halloween coming up, we'd ask you not to rake them out to the street for the DPW to collect until after Halloween, because that does create another barrier of sight for the kids running across the street. And cars, do not park in piles of leaves, because they tend to pack on your catalytic converter and set your car on fire.
We learned that last year, didn't we?
And last but not least, I heard it on the radio today, we had someone burning leaves. Irregardless if you have a permit to burn in the city of Ferndale, you may not burn leaves, whether you have a fire pit or not. That is forbidden, expressly forbidden. So
tell us why. What's the logic behind that, Chief?
The leaves, when lit, tend to spread out, and they also create embers as they go up, and the embers can set many other things on fire. So we just like to keep this a quiet season. But nevertheless, someone will, somewhere, somehow, pull into the leaves and catch their car on fire. No comments about city people, but there have been previous cases.
Oh, my.
So that's all we have. Have a safe Halloween. It's important.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Lloyd, DPW.
The fire chief was going to cover my entire subject, but he only got a few of the comments. I just wanted to let your residents know that we have begun leaf collection in earnest as of today. And other than this Friday, we will be out there on a regular basis, Monday through Friday, as early as 7:30 till 6 o'clock, as long as the light provides and the weather provides for pickup. We will be using leaf pickup signs heavily this year in the areas that we will be in, notifying the public and requesting them not to park on the streets when we're doing operations. That will make it much more efficient both for the city, and we'll be able to service the resident much easier, quicker, and probably more often. Last note, similar to what the fire chief has said, we encourage people not to let their children play in the piles of leaves. Obviously, with the crews working out there long hours, sometimes in twilight, we don't want any accidents to occur. So we ask the residents, once the leaves are placed at the curb, please do not allow your children to play in them. And
They're
that's
just killjoys.
I know. All these safety things.
On the lawn is fine. Once it's in the street, you
All
don't
right.
play in the street,
All
right?
right, all right.
Yes.
Yes.
Fair enough.
May I, through the chair?
Of course.
We talked about this, Lloyd, last year, about streets that have only one parking on one side, and possibly the benefit of having residents rake their leaves to the opposite side the cars are parked. I know it's kind of hard to make a policy, but I know on East Saratoga, it just makes it a lot easier, because then we don't eliminate parking spaces on a one-sided parking street.
We certainly welcome the residents to place all their leaves, particularly where parking is already prohibited on one side of the street, because obviously without any cars there, we can service them much more efficiently and probably more often. Particularly, we're having another one of those extended wet seasons all the way through fall, and the amount of moisture that the trees have available greatly affects when the leaves will fall. And the entire summer and fall has been wet, as we all know, still mowing our lawn and that sort of thing throughout summer. So we do anticipate a late leaf drop, which makes it much more difficult on the Public Works Department, because we have the entire city coming down at the same time, and we have 4 crews that are working, 10-hour days, 6 days a week in most cases. Any help that the residents would like us to give us would be helpful. We did place an article in the recent newsletter that asked residents to leave the curb drainage open in the event that there's rainfall, and to pile the leaves into long rows, and whenever possible not to park on the street when they see those signs out that we're placing. We're going to have a total of 80 signs out available in the areas that we're doing it to try to get the word out, and they'll stay in the areas as long as we're working in that area.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Floyd. Appreciate it. Joe, anything from your department this evening? All right. Sherilyn, anything from what's going on in the clerk's office these days?
We're not doing too much. We are full swing in election preparation. We are training election inspectors. We are working with DPW and the fire department and the police department. We have plans in place for parking at University High and the curling club, where we had issues back in 2012. We think we have some things ironed out, and there will be a lot less confusion in those areas. I just really want to reiterate Crystal's remarks on the importance of getting out and voting. No matter whether it's a local election, a state election like this one is, a federal election, whether 10 people show up to vote or 100% of our registered voters show up to vote, it's the same amount of work for us. So this is your chance. This is you getting to have a say, a voice in who makes decisions for you. On this ballot, you get to pick who is going to lead the state of Michigan in the governor's office. You get to pick who is going to have a voice in the federal Senate, in the House of Representatives, in the state Senate, your state representative, the folks who will drive policy for the University of Michigan, Michigan State University, Wayne State, the State Board of Education. We've got state proposals. Your local school boards, Hazel Park and Ferndale School Board, those members. As you drill down to the more local issues, the more powerful your voice is. So please, make time in your schedule on November 4th to get out and vote between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. If you're going to be out of town, contact my office or go online to michigan.gov, get an absentee ballot, make your voice heard. Thank you.
Well said. April, anything from the city manager's office this evening?
Just a couple of reminders. I know we're kind of sick of hearing the word FEMA, but I do want to remind everybody that FEMA is at the Kulik Center. They've actually extended. They were supposed to end on November 7th. Because of the busy nature of the center, they're actually staying open until November 24th. A big thank you to Jill, who's been rescheduling meetings within those 2 rooms that they're using so that we could keep them in there. It's very important that residents understand that they only have till November 24th to fill out the paperwork for FEMA. Otherwise, they miss the opportunity of possibly getting funded. They can also, beyond dropping off at the Kulik Center, to get help, they can call 1-800-621-3362. Another friendly reminder, that December 15th is the only meeting we will have in for December rather than 2 meetings due to the Christmas holiday. So those that are interested in attending or watching council meetings, to note that in your calendar that December 15th will be the meeting that we have for the month of December.
Thank you. Dan, anything else?
Tonight, Your Honor.
You've earned your pay tonight. Councilman Martin.
Not to beat a dead horse, but with the election Tuesday, it's also, I think, important to remember that some of the races that will impact your lives, your day-to-day lives the most, are nonpartisan and on the back of the ballot. So turn the ballot over, please. In particular, 2 races that I just want to draw your attention to. For our school board, I'd encourage you to support Nan Kermuller, Karen Toomey, and Jennifer Latosh. And then I'd also encourage strong support for Lisa Langdon for Circuit Court Judge.
Councilman Lennon.
Has been said. I have nothing.
All right. Councilman Pollica.
I have a couple things. The letters for the service line warranty program have been going out. You will find that the one that council has approved, the city has approved, has the city logo on it. Other companies are sending out their information. It does not have the city logo on it. So you are welcome to sign up with them. I just can't guarantee you the kind of program that they offer and whether or not it's going to be beneficial. Next thing is Historic Holiday Home Tour. Supporting the Historical Society will be on December 13th from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Cost is $15. We're hoping to have anywhere from 8 to 10 houses. We're very close to that number already, but we do have a few slots. So if you don't have to have this great, outstanding, decorated home. If you have something funky, something unique, different architecture, that's what we're looking for. And you're willing to open up your home for a couple of hours for people to go through and go ooh and ah. That's what we're looking for. So you can get a hold of me, FerndaleGreg@gmail.com, or you can contact the Historical Society at the Historical Museum. And the last thing is voting. Very, very important to vote. I am actually going to be working at the 5th precinct. So if you have any issues with something going on in the city, come visit me November 4th at the 5th precinct, and we can talk. That's all I have.
Excellent. And Councilwoman Piana.
Yes. If you have children and you live in the Dales and you'd love to come hang out and meet your neighbors, this Friday from 5:30 to 8, the Dales group will be in front of the Digital Learning Center handing out hot cider and donuts. And it looks like we will need the hot cider because there is prediction of snow, which is better than last year, which was down torrential rain. So I'll take the snow over torrential rain. But I look forward to seeing everybody's cute little kids in their costumes and having a really good time. So that's 5:30 to 8 o'clock. Come down to our little tent.
What if you don't have kids?
You can come down anyway and say hello and eat the donuts, and we'll give you candy.
Did you have to wear a costume?
Yes. We may take a photo of you in your costume.
Can I come as a councilman?
No.
That'd be scary.
Thanks.
Too easy.
The other item is that I wanted to thank our planning commissioners, Deb Brazen and Kevin Vetrano, for taking the day off with me on Thursday last week to evaluate and interview 5 planning consulting firms that made it from the list of 8 down to 5, and we've narrowed it down to a handful more, 3. And it was really good that we took the time to hear what these consultants had to say. And it's all for updating the master plan and the Parks Recreation Plan, and hopefully we'll have a sustainability component to it. So, and of course Derek and staff for managing all of that. I'm hoping that council will make a decision sometime soon about a firm to help us navigate some of our visioning questions for the future. And that's it. Oh, go vote. I think it's all been said.
All right. I neglected to mention this earlier when Chris Hughes was here, but if you want to come by and say goodbye to Chris and give her a hug and thank her for her work, at 6 o'clock this Wednesday, 6 p.m. this Wednesday at the Twisted Tavern, there's going to be a little party, going away party for Chris. So if you want to do that, feel free to stop by. And the second thing I wanted to mention is last week, the Elks had their Law and Order Night, and the Elks do just such a wonderful job with that. And I know all of council was there, and we got to congratulate the various citizens of the year. And I want to just announce who they are, just to love on them one more time, because our own Marnie McGrath got City Employee of the Year. For some reason, DPW doesn't consider themselves city employees, so they do it separately. And Carlos's last name? Kennedy was the DPW Employee of the Year, so that was pretty cool. Officer Cleveland was the Police Officer of the Year. Jeannie Davis was the Ferndale Citizen of the Year, and well-deserved. Did it? I don't think I missed anyone, so.
The Merchant of the Year.
Oh, and Merchant of the Year, that's right, thank you very much. With Dean Bach from Dino's was the Merchant of the Year. So great time had by all, and the, oh, for goodness sakes, thank you. And Barb, who is the receptionist over at the Kulik Center, was the Senior Citizen of the Year. See, when you start a list like this, you're going to get in trouble. So, anybody I forgot, I'll mention at the next council meeting. How's that? Pardon me?
I forgot one item.
Councilwoman Piana has.
Councilwoman Pollicott?
Oh my gosh. That's all I have. So you get the last word this evening.
I just wanted to say that there was a resident who came to council at the last meeting and had some concerns, expressed concerns about the 360 project. I wanted to let people know that council and myself are available to have one-on-one conversations, and I had a very good conversation with this homeowner on the phone. And I heard his concerns, and he knows about what's happening with the 360 project. We're still analyzing information, and we're still taking comment about what people desire and don't desire about the 360. So thank you.
All right. And with that, meeting is adjourned. Phew. Sorry to keep her up. What's that? Sorry to keep her up.
Thank you.